Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Berryman here, coalition builder and founder of Bringing Humanity Together. Welcome to our very first edition of our video newsletter here at Bringing Humanity Together. I just saw an opportunity to speak about something that's really near and dear to my heart, and I just had to say, hey, let's make it a video newsletter, and that's what we're going to be doing here more pretty soon here at Bringing Humanity Together. So what we'll be talking about today is, why does favoritism exist in our companies and organizations today? And is there even a need for it and everything? So I'll be sharing my thoughts, my insights into that today. And like, again, please, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch this either live or on a replay, and we would love to hear from you. And we do a lot of our content on LinkedIn. So what I'll do after the show, I'll put all the links so you guys can reach out to us here, bring humanity together, and get involved in our great and engaging conversation, meet and greet calls, collaboration calls, and everything in between. So again, this is our first time doing this. And like I said, I'm just so humbled and honored to be here with you all today. Uh, but let's get right into it. Why does favoritism exist? Well, I truly believe favoritism is not necessarily a bad thing. Favoritism could be a good thing, and here's why. When we have that trust with people to such an extent, we can literally hand off something to them and say, hey, take this, run with it, get it done. And I kid you not, in the over 35 years I've been working since I was 16 years old, I've seen a lot of that actually take place, to where a leader will hand off something to a team leader or a partner in the business and say, hey, take this, run with it. Uh, Let me know the results. And more importantly, if you have any obstacles in your way, please let me know, and we'll look at that and see how we can actually minimize that, or even take it out of that to where you can have a free flowing and ever growing result, not only for us, but maybe also more importantly for you as well. And the reason why I bring it in that kind of context up is, it really goes down to perception. And I truly believe perception can lead us into a sense of direction of that deception kind of dichotomy, that we don't actually see what's actually there. We only see a part of things because we don't know the whole story. We don't know the whole background, the whole setup of things and everything. But there's some people who are very in tune to their environment and the people they work around. And sometimes when we really recognize those very people who are in tune to what gets done, why it gets done, and how it even gets done, then it takes us to another place and space and say, hey, why are they showing up in this way versus that way? And that not only goes for leaders, that goes for team leaders, that will go for everyone else in the company, all the way down to the mailroom and everything in between. Because again, if you want to create an environment where everyone can truly grow and thrive, don't let the perception be that if I give Bob an opportunity to do this, that, or the other, but yet Susie looks at it and says, wait a minute, Bob doesn't do a whole heck of a lot compared to what I do, but yet he still gives all these amazing opportunities to do this and do that, but what do I get? And I truly believe that stems from, let me put it this way, a fear of missing out to a certain degree. A sense of ego comes into play, a sense of not being involved or even belonging. And that's a big thing, is it not? And there's also many other things that comes out of that too as well. Because again, if seeing is believing, do what we see is what's actually occurring. Again, Bob might be doing something else of some things that you may not even know about. So he might be doing more work than what probably Susie even knows about. Because again, perception is literally everything when you really think about it, not only from a human connectivity standpoint, but also from a leadership and partner standpoint and collaborative standpoint too as well. Because if you're being perceived in one light compared to what should be actually be taking place, then you can have the undercutting of your leadership at every turn from the people that actually do the boots on the ground work with you and for you. And then again, other people who's in that same level of experience and a position of leadership, they say, well, wait a minute. Then why is Bill in this position of leadership, but don't project out the leadership that he should really project to get people to do what he wants to do? Now, mind you, like I said, I have had a plethora of experience, whether it be in restaurants, whether it be in retail, whether it be in warehousing. And that's why I saw the writing on the wall, so to speak, of even creating bringing humanity together in the first place. And really, what stood out to me is I asked myself this very simple question: should I be working with people or for people? And I truly believe, ladies and gentlemen, working with people is far different than working for people. But think about that for a second in the context of what we're talking about today, about why does favoritism even exist in our companies and our organizations today. Think about it. If I'm working for someone to do X, Y, and Z to get to 1, 2, 3, they're only wanting me to do a certain amount of things in a certain amount of time to get X results out of those kind of things. It becomes literally, I actually believe, linear in scope. They only want the result. They don't want to know about the journey. They don't want to know about the pitfalls and trials and tribulations of that very journey. They just want to see the end result. Now, everyone's that way. I understand that. But there are people who see it completely differently when you work with them and you invest in them. And ladies and gentlemen, I truly believe, and we all truly believe here at Bringing Humanity Together, that the best investment is the human investment. So take that on the other side of that dynamic as well, is if we put that investment into people to such a degree that we know that we can trust them, we can literally give them the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, and we know that they will get things done, then would that favoritism then be seen in a different light? Because if Bill can still have the same level of uh, favoritism from Bob, Susie, Jill, Jeremy, whoever that might be, and you kind of evenly place that favoritism to the best of your human ability, because we're all literally human beings first and foremost, but you kind of evenly distribute that trust and that know and like factor into those very people. Again, that best investment is a human investment, because again, if they are going to provide a great service for you and with you to get this product done, or to get this deadline done, or get this proposal done, not only do you know who you can go to and trust and get those things done, but you do it in a very even keeled way. And you literally are not setting the expectations so high, or even the perception thereof so high, that they just don't know what they actually are seeing. And for me, ladies and gentlemen, again, if we can have that perception actually be truly the reality, then I guarantee you, more often than not, what people will see then will turn into what's actually occurring. Hey, I can count on Chris to do this. I can count on Susie to do this. I can count on Bob to do this. But you do it in, like I said, in a very, very non-linear way, because you again recognize the one thing that's going to be universal across the board, which is change. Change is that one constant, ladies and gentlemen. We can't put in a box, send it halfway around the world, say, Susie can only do this because the results have always spoken to this, and she always does that in that kind of way, and it's always going to be that way. When in reality, in fact, it won't be, and here's why: because of that very change. Because what happens 10 years ago, or what happened 10 years ago, is going to be completely different than what happens not only today, but what happens tomorrow, does it not? And I truly believe what we have come to maybe to be accustomed to, not only in a place of leadership, but one of followership and team building and of culture, we kind of look to those very people from that place of perception of they're not actually providing the tools and resources or the very work they're within. Now, mind you, these are the things that we all should look for in an organization today to find out who's actually doing said work and maybe those who are not. Now, like I said, I come from a background of warehousing, retail, and restaurants. My biggest time has basically been in restaurants because I practically grew up in it. Because my dad and my mother worked for Red Lobster for almost 40 plus years, Casa Gallardo, Shell Seafood Restaurant. So I literally practically grew up in the restaurant industry. Have seen not only the behind the scenes, but the reality in what I've been doing for so many years. And these are the things that I have found too as well in my own experience. There are some good people who would do the work that needs to get done, the work that needs to get taken care of, and they would do it unabashedly and unequivocally because they know their role. But they also understand too, it's about the goal too as well, and everything like that. Because again, when you understand the goal, the role becomes much easier because then again, the expectations I actually have found out in my lifetime will be substantially lowered to where it can be done in a truly reality construct that you can actually meet or maybe even exceed those very goals when you give them the freedom to do those kind of things. You give them the direction up to that, and you let them be trusting from you to them that you trust them in implementing it, getting it done, and everything in between. But then again, you don't micromanage to such an extent you stifle off creativity, amazement, wonderment, imagination, and everything in between to really create a better result than probably what you did maybe last year or last week or last month or last quarter. And then again, like I said, that's where that human investment comes into play too as well. Because when you look at that human investment as a truly priceless gift in and of itself, then your people will start working with you rather than for you. And like I said, the things that I've been seeing, like I said, for over 35 years, and these are the kind of don't side of things. Number one, if you have time to lean, you have time to clean. And that's what my father taught me at a very, very, very early age. There's been many times in my travels on this earth in business today, a lot of people who just stand around and they don't do a single thing, but yet leadership never calls them out on it. Now, why is that? To me, this is where favoritism could be the bad side of things, and here's why. If you have that personal relationship with people to such an extent, you will actually literally oversee their day-to-day, not only scheduling, but you oversee what they do and why they do. But if they don't fulfill those particular things on any particular day, you could be pencil whipping the process and saying that they did these very certain things. You would literally maybe intentionally or unintentionally overlook the things that they should have done and still have them in those sad positions because of not what they do, but because of the relationship they have with you. And that to me is a big, 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 big red flag right there. Again, I've heard this probably more often than I could care to possibly count. But we've heard that adage saying that it's never personal in business. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today. It is personal in business, and here's why. We, in one point or another in our lives, have been told that we got to check our humanity at the door. Why has that been a big thing for a lot of us ever since we ever got into business? That say it's not personal what I do with you and what I say to you and all those kind of things. And that to me, and like I say, it's a big, big red flag when you see other people not doing what and they know that they should be doing, but yet still get away with it for whatever rhyme or reason that is. I'm not saying that it's going to be an always fair kind of dichotomy, because again, like I said, like I stipulated earlier, sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. But then from a totality of the facts that has actually been presented to you, you can make a better informed, contextual, knowledge-based correlation of why they didn't do this versus why they should have been doing that and everything like that. Like I said, every situation is going to be uniquely different. But then number two as well of another red flag is when people, and I like I said, I'm just using this as a generalization here. When people are willing to step up and say yes to, hey, I do this for you, I do that for you, and yet they do it, but then more often than not, they say no to other things, that kind of makes us wonder, again, from a place of perception, they say only yes to these very few things, but in which, and there'll probably be a many of people out here can say, hey, I say yes to more things than Billy Bob does, but yet I don't get a lot of the recognition and the credit and everything that I do when I say yes to all these opportunities from our leadership team or my team leader. And I think that's a big dichotomy, because when you start seeing that play out to where you say yes to a lot of these other things that gets done and you don't get the credit for it, but yet they do, and they say more often than not, they say no to more things than you do, that pendulum is going to be skewed very, very, very badly. So that's another thing you got to really recognize, especially in a culture-driven dynamic as any organization on this planet. People will see that and say, that doesn't kind of seem fair, that he gets all these things, but yet he says more no to this, but yet when he does answer that call, he gets a lot of recognition, a lot of spotlight, even though I say yes to a lot of things and I get them done, don't even seek the recognition, but yet it's kind of ironic that I do probably maybe more stuff or more projects, but they get called out on it in a very positive light, but yet I might be doing the very same exact work, but yet don't get recognized for it. And that to me is it really blows my mind that that's happened. And I have to be completely honest, ladies and gentlemen, that has happened to me more times than I can even count. That I say yes to a lot of things, but don't get recognized for it. And yes, they may say thank you, because that's something they just have to say and do. But this is the other third red flag I want to bring to the table too as well. is how actually are grateful to the people who do the work that they do with us and even for us. That to me is a big thing. Ladies and gentlemen, it really is. Because like I just said, you can say thank you because maybe you have to say thank you in the context of your position of leadership or a team leader or an assistant team lead, whatever that might be, trainer, whatever. Sometimes you kind of have to say that. But, ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today. If you do it because you know it is true and genuine to you and it was deep and meaningful to you that they did this work unabashedly and unapologetically, and they did it to the very best of their human ability, and you saw that, you will come back and say, hey, that was a great job. You fulfilled on this. That is a great thing. Thank you so much, Susie, for doing this with me. Greatly appreciate it. You came through. Because if they hear that from you and see that from you, that it really will speak volumes to not only to who you are, it's not only as a leader, but more importantly as a human being. But back to what I was saying earlier about people not doing their work and they're just standing around not really doing anything like that. Now, again, there are going to be those cases out there, ladies and gentlemen, that there are going to be those people who do that. Like they just stand around, don't do anything, and even don't ask for more opportunities to help, more opportunities to finish a project or help somebody else. Because this is the thing, and this is I truly believe, a big red flag for all of us, whether you're in leadership or not. And this is the fourth thing for me, is we hear this every single day. No, that's not my job. No, that's not my job. It's not my responsibility. No. But here's my two takes on that from a pro and con kind of dynamic. The pro side of that, when you say it's not my job, you can say, hey, I didn't sign up to do these particular things because number one, I may not know what these are, do not what's entailed and entrusted me to do what I need to do. I don't mind helping out, but don't make me responsible for something that I have no knowledge of, not only from a follow-through standpoint, but also an execution standpoint. So that to me is going to be a pro, because when you tell people that you can only do these particular things, they can recognize that and say, hey, maybe Susie's not really well versed to do social media for us. Maybe Chris is. And I'm not knocking nobody for not knowing what they don't know. But that's when you can come up and say, hey, I don't mind helping. Maybe this might be a huge opportunity for me to learn what I should learn, maybe to do social media for the organization. And that to me could be that net positive versus the net negative when you allow people to do that. But what can be the con in saying that's not my job? And I'm sure a lot of you are thinking right now, I have so much to say on this, and not even funny. Well, I am too as well. That's why I'm making this video. And I'm going to be completely honest, ladies and gentlemen, there's been many times in my younger years that I did say this, and I meant it. I said, it's not my job. It's not my responsibility. Don't bring it to me. Many years I did that when I was very, very young. But what I come to find out, though, in my later years, and when I got truly enlightened and really engaged with the people that I've worked with throughout the years, I said no to it's not my job, but this is the way I've turned out to approach it. Hey, I don't mind helping out Bucky or William or Steve or whoever that might be, but I am not going to do the work for them. They should do the work with me to complete said task. Because if they're responsible enough to do said task, then they should actually bear the responsibility of executing and finishing that up. Now, mind you, asking for help is not a bad thing. It's a great thing when you know that you're under the gun or in the weeds or you're behind the eight ball, whatever that might be, you can be able to say, "Hey, Chris, can you help me out with this?" Well, what's going on? I've had too much. I'm on literally on overload, and we have all been there. Overload is a big thing. Overwhelm is a big thing. Absolutely, it happens to all of us. Even in people in leadership, they get overwhelmed. That's why you got to understand. You got to recognize what is before you. Do things that you know you can do in a very quick and maybe I won't say easy manner, but for you maybe an easy way to get completed, and then probably get into the harder nitty gritty stuff to really finish out what needs to be taken care of. That being said, though, a lot of us, whether it be in leadership positions or team leader positions or literally anyone else in the company, we don't take stock in that and recognize what they can handle and what maybe they can't handle at that very given moment in time. That's where empathy comes into play. That's where understanding comes into play. And that's and when you think it from a con standpoint, you should never say, I will never want to understand why they are not able to do this of X, Y, and Z. And you basically shelter yourself off from that conversation with them because you don't want to know. Because if you're only fixated on the end result and you don't want to hear why this process may not work because of this or too many things have been laid on their plate, we as leaders and more importantly as a whole organizational maybe structure, and like I said, I've seen this far too many times that I can count, that when that gets embedded into the culture, that you literally have that sense of no being said across the whole organization, that where no is literally the go-to thing that everyone starts saying, oh, I won't do this for you. No, it's not my responsibility, not my job. It should be Bob's job. I got to worry about me. And see, again, that goes into another dichotomy too as well, is we bring selfishness into our organizations. And that breeds, ladies and gentlemen, it does. So does negativity. So does that perception that leads into deception. All that is a negative breeding ground for these kind of things to create a negative-driven culture, especially one based on the favoritism that's not really equally uplifting and distributed across the organization. Because if you do it for only a certain few and not the whole organization as a whole, everyone else again will be almost like on the outside looking in, and they only see a part of what's really going on. Again, you don't want that perception to be out there, to be their go-to and say, these only many people are being shown the favoritism and everything, but yet the rest of us are not. Why is that? So I know this is going to be a great and engaging conversation moving forward for all of you. And like I said, this is going to be one of many video newsletters that we'll be having coming to our channels, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be on LinkedIn, whether it be on X and everything like that. And that will be done. Like I said, I will put in the comment section below once this gets uploaded and everything, the ways you can reach out to us. Like I said, we do a lot of our outreach basically on LinkedIn, but I said, hey, let's reach out to the people here on YouTube and want to get their takes and insights on this. So, like I said, this is going to be one of many conversations that we'll be having. If you want to engage with us and be a part of those conversations, and if you want to count me in on that, in the comment section, say count me in, and please leave your social media details in the comment section. We would love to hear from you and engage with you. We want to hear from you. But that's kind of a little of the take for me about when it comes to favoritism again, like I said, there's always a pro and con to everything that we do, but maybe let's focus on the pro side of things, the really deep and meaningful, impactful things that's going to inspire and uplift and set a course for collaboration in our organizations today. That favoritism can be truly level set it across the board, and we do it in that way that it's not just a very few who has that favoritism set upon them, but it's actually the many and everything like that. But then again, there's always going to be those people out there who are going to not do their part, but yet have the favoritism bestowed upon them nonetheless, because of so many other different things. They only know who they know, and they can go to them and say, hey, I will do this little bit for you if you do a little bit. And then that's when the quid pro quo kind of thing comes in too as well. And that's another thing we'll have to hit on to on a later show. Quid pro quos are real, ladies and gentlemen. It really is. And that is, to me, that's a no-go for me. I will never do a quid pro quo for anyone. I don't care. Now, you can ask me, can you do this for me if I help you with that? That's a different dichotomy, because you're asking of it, not demanding of it. And that's a totally different context. Because when it comes to a quid pro quo, it's a exchange for either or, and it's kind of like it's a must. And to me, a quid pro quo, to a certain extent, and I hate to say it this way, but it could be a reality for a lot of us. It can also be used as a means of blackmail too, as well. That the person that wants to get things done will use something over your head to kind of like command you to do these kind of things, but then that gives you basically no choice but to do it. And that, to me, that's going to be a different, totally deep and engaging conversation that we would get into that point, because there should never be something laid over your head for you to actually have a place in an organization, or in lieu of working at an organization. And if you want to call them out on their BS or whatever, and you tell them, hey, this is not the right fit for me, and anything like that. And I've seen this happen, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure a lot of you have. They will use that blackmail kind of dynamic and, like I said, linger it over their head and say, hey, if you say this about us, we will have this right here. Even though you might be in the right. And again, two wrongs don't make a right, ladies and gentlemen. It does not. You should never, ever end up being that vindictive to somebody that you will use something that might be considered very, very small in nature if they did do something wrong, but make it so egregious that you almost compel them either not to leave your company, or not to say anything, or don't go to the proper people, to the proper channels to say, hey, this is happening here. We need to check in on this. But then you get too afraid not to do that, in lieu of getting attacked either verbally or have that retaliation set against you in so many different ways, shape, matters, or form. And again, we talked about this not too long ago on one of our calls last week about the quietly quitting and the quietly firing kind of dynamic. And that plays into also, does it not, into favoritism? Think about it. There's to me, there's a big correlation to quietly quitting and quietly firing, even when it comes to favoritism. And we definitely need to have that conversation too as well. So again, like I said, I want to put all this out there for you guys today, and I want to hear from you and everything like this. I'll be putting this video newsletter in our other newsletter, actually on LinkedIn. And like I said, I will be putting that newsletter in the comment section of this live stream, so you guys can go back and engage with it. And again, like I said, please, anyone watching this on the replay, please put your social media channels out there. We would love to hear from you, and we want to engage with you. We want to hear about what comes to mind for you when it comes to favoritism, or anything else for that matter. And do you truly believe that we maybe have checked our humanity at the door, or Is there a sense of leadership that's really about leading people, not about managing people? And that's a big thing because, again, John C. Maxwell says it best in this great book, The 21 Infallible Laws of Leadership. The greatest myth out there is we equate leadership and management to be one and the same, but they're two polar opposites of the spectrum. And I'm truly a big believer in that. So, again, we would love to have this and many more great and engaging conversations with all of you. So, please stay up to date with us, not only on this channel here on YouTube, which is Bringing Humanity Together, but also Conversations for Humanity with Chris Berryman too as well. I'll put the link to that channel too as well. And if you'd like to come share your story or share something that happened to you or to somebody else, please let us know. We would like to bring that to the table. All right, so you guys have a great and amazing day on this Super Saturday. We would love to hear from you. Have a great day and make it your day.